Let's talk about the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins are entering a very dangerous situation with Tua. We know how last season ended. They did not make the NFL playoffs, and part of that was because of all the injuries that they were dealing with, primarily to Tua. And that's how we're going to start off this video. Chris Grier gave this man a major contract extension. 4 years, $212 million. Tua did perform like a franchise quarterback. He had the season where he was fully healthy. They went to the NFL playoffs against the Kansas City Chiefs. Unfortunately, they fizzled out in the first round. It was a fourth coldest game in NFL history in the NFL playoffs. But Tua, 29 passing touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 4,624 passing yards. It was good enough to give him that contract extension. But see, this is the problem. Tua has dealt with injuries in the past. He's dealt with head injuries at Alabama. He had a brutal hip injury. When a lot of people look at Tua and they say, man, he can't drive the football down the field, he has a noodle arm. That's partially true. Tua in the past, he could throw the football deep down the field at a consistent basis at Alabama. But that hip injury took a lot out of Tua. So he can't really just go out there and fully maximize the talents of Jaylen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. So you gave this man a major contract extension and he suffered major concussions in the past. Primarily on the watch of the Miami Dolphins, he suffered a concussion against the Buffalo Bills. And I don't care what anyone says. I know how concussions are and I know how people look when they have them. Tua was stumbling. His teammate helps him up. They let him finish out that game, which they shouldn't have did. On short week's notice, he has to go against the Cincinnati Bengals. He suffers yet another concussion. They had to stretch him off the field. And he misses a significant amount of time after that. And since then, you cringe when you see Tua take a hit because you're wondering, okay, is he going to be able to take care of himself? Is he going to be able to get up? And unfortunately for the Miami Dolphins, this previous year, he suffered yet another concussion against the Buffalo Bills early in the regular season. He dove into DeMar Hamlin's chest. He was out for a significant amount of time. Later on that season against the Houston Texans, he dove into the defender legs. So I look at it from this standpoint. Tua needs to learn how to slide or just fall down and protect himself. It's not up to the defenders to protect him. He's a free runner. Tua, at this point in time, is becoming a veteran quarterback. Go out there, slide down, or just drop your body and let them just touch you. You can't take those type of hits. But this is the problem that I have with the Dolphins. You're paying this man this much money, which is a terrible contract. Tua is not a terrible player. It's just the injury history that he's dealt with within the last few years, even dating back to college. The problem that I have, he's going to be playing behind one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. The last time I recorded a video about the Miami Dolphins, Teron Armstead was still on the roster. He was still an active player. Well, since then, he just retired. So now your starting left tackle for the Miami Dolphins is going to be Patrick Paul. Patrick Paul is a young player. He's 23 years old. But based off the snaps that he played last season, he did not look good. He was not good in pass protection. He was not good in run blocking. Maybe you give him a full season, he could truly develop. But at the end of the day, this is a player that you trust to go out there and protect Tua on the left side of your offensive line. I look at the right tackle position. Austin Jackson is a solid right tackle, but you can upgrade at that position. At the right guard position, you bring in James Daniels. On the surface, this is a phenomenal pickup. He was a superstar with the Steelers until he tore his Achilles against the Indianapolis Colts, a non-contact injury. Can he stay fully healthy? So in the second round, you draft Jonah, big right guard / right tackle out of Arizona. There's a lot of flexibility there. Maybe he can come in and he could be a very good offensive lineman straight out the gate. But it's going to take more than just one offensive lineman to go out there and fully help out Tua. You don't want him to take more abuse on his body. And look at the division you play in. You have the Buffalo Bills. So far, they have been big brother to the Miami Dolphins since Coach McDaniel has become the head coach. And I do want to point this out. In the second matchup, we know what happened in the first game when they was at home, Tua got injured. In the second matchup, they had the Buffalo Bills on the ropes. If it wasn't for Jordan Poyer getting that dumb penalty and pushing the Buffalo Bills into scoring range, the Dolphins would have possibly won that game. And that possibly would turn their entire season around. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. You got swept by the Buffalo Bills. They can get to the quarterback at a consistent rate. And they know how to go out there and stop the motion plays with Coach McDaniel. They run a lot of cover 2 man. Whenever you have those 2 safeties over the top, nothing deep, nothing cheap, and they forced Tua to throw the football deep down in the middle of the field. He doesn't have the strongest arm, and they may run combo coverage to where they may double cover the tight end or just put the tight end in man coverage, and Tua has to throw the football into a tight window, and it takes time for those routes to develop down the field. So you have to worry about the Buffalo Bills. On top of that, you have the New York Jets. They've had very good defenses. Now, last season, they took a major step back. They fired Coach Saleh. We'll see how they look with Aaron Glenn. Right now, you can make the case the Miami Dolphins are better than the New York Jets. Then you have the New England Patriots. We'll see how this new look team looks for the Patriots. But one thing I can guarantee, Mike Vrabel has a different mindset from Coach McDaniel. He's going to be aggressive as hell. So they need to find a way to protect Tua. And it's more than just going out there and just doing a lot of dump-off passes behind the line of scrimmage. When I look at this situation with Coach McDaniel, I do believe that he could be a very good offensive play caller. But as a head coach, he leaves a lot to be desired, especially with the playmakers around him. And it's more than just him. Once again, the offensive line is not good. He calls so many plays behind the line of scrimmage that it wasn't funny. So many screens to Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle. In the first year when he was the head coach, he had so many motion plays. The opposing teams, they're scratching their heads and they're saying, hey, what the hell is going on here? It looked like a college offense. But when they went against teams above 500, they shut all those plays down. When you look at Tua and his record against teams above 500 while being coached up by Coach McDaniel with Tyreek Hill and the same with Jaylen Waddle, he's 2-13 against teams with a winning record as I record this video. That's not good. And to add another wrinkle into things with Tua, the first playoff game that Mike McDaniel got them to as a head coach was against the Buffalo Bills. Tua was not even able to play in that matchup. He's recovering from a concussion injury. Skylar Thompson had to come in that game. And against the Chiefs, he had a lot of bad moments in the cold. They're not physical enough up front to manhandle teams. They're built off of speed and finesse, and you have a quarterback that is limited due to his injuries in the past, and he is not a top 5 talent quarterback. But he is a very good quarterback that you could possibly build your team around if you give him the right offensive line and the right pieces on the outside. I'm a huge fan of quarterbacks that can step back, go back there and cue you with their accuracy and their precision. That's what Tua can do, but he is limited, and I'm a Tua fan. To me, Tua is a top 10 to top 15 quarterback. You may disagree with that, but at least he's a top 15 quarterback in my opinion. And I'm not just talking about talent-wise here. There's a lot of quarterbacks that are more talented than him, but they get themselves put into dangerous situations. Tua, on his best day, he's a solid quarterback that you can have. But I will agree with this. He is overpaid. And I look at the system that he's in. You would think that he'll be throwing a lot of deep bombs to Tyreek Hill and the same with Jaylen Waddle. That's not the case. And you look at Tyreek Hill, listen to what he had to say after the Miami Dolphins had a disappointing season off the season we just came off of.
You know, this is my first time I haven't been in the playoffs, man. So, I mean, for me, like I said, man, I just got to do what's best for me and my family, dog. If that's here, or if that's wherever the case may be, man, I'm finna open that door for myself, dog. As I'm opening the door, like I'm out, bro. You know, so it was great playing here, but you know, at the end of the day, bro, I got to do what's best for, you know, for my career and, you know, what's best. Because I'm too much of a competitor to be, you know, just out there.
Mean you thinking about leaving here?
If it is, hey, yeah.
Now, that doesn't inspire the most confidence in a player wanting to stay with their team long term. After he said this, a few weeks later, he went out on Twitter and he said, you know what? I'm all in with the Miami Dolphins. Let's run it back for one more season. Tyreek Hill is full of it. He doesn't want to be on the Miami Dolphins anymore. When he first got traded to the Dolphins, he was hyping up Tua. He was saying he was the most accurate quarterback in the NFL. He was saying, that's my guy. He damn near said that he's better than Patrick Mahomes. And even he knew he was lying. Just a week ago, he came out and a fan asked him, who are your top 5 quarterbacks? Tua was nowhere to be found on that list. So he has changed his tune. In the past, he's had his quarterbacks back over and over again, and he still thinks highly of Tua. But even he knows he's not going to win a Super Bowl with this team. They're not going to be a major playoff contender in the AFC because the fact that they can't protect Tua up front, and also this, All their wide receivers pretty much do the same thing except for Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. But look at Tyreek Hill. You should go on and see what you can get for him. You're going to trade Jaylen Ramsey anyway, and I'm really going to go deep into that conversation when I talk about defense here. You should see what you can get for Tyreek Hill. You're not going to win a Super Bowl for this upcoming season. You're not going to be in contention. And do not be surprised if the Miami Dolphins, if they fall underneath 500, especially if they're third in their division, if they ship off a player like Tyreek Hill. You just heard what the man said. He doesn't have the most confidence in this team, and he doesn't want to be with the Miami Dolphins right now. And they have a huge leadership problem. So many reports came out last season that players were late. They were getting away with this crap when they were winning games early on. And they're taking advantage of Coach McDaniel. He is the ultimate player's coach. And you can see it on HBO Hard Knocks. He goes out there, he jokes with the players. He's chill, he's laid back. I'm not saying that you have to go out there and be Bill Belichick, that you have to go out there and be Greg Popovich or Nick Saban and just hammer your team into the ground week in and week out. If you're up by 40, you're still yelling at your players. But you have to be firm here. And you have to treat every player the same. It seems like the top tier names on this team were getting special treatment. You can't have that. These are supposed to be the leaders with your team. In my opinion, the leader that they have is Tua, but he's rarely in the building dealing with injuries. And considering things off the field with Tyreek Hill, you don't want him to be a leader. You want Tyreek Hill to just be a player that can go out there, be a number one wide receiver. You don't want him to take over your locker room. He hasn't shown those qualities, especially with the crap that he said after that last game for the Miami Dolphins last year. He got himself in trouble with the police officers. And that's when the season really went to hell. He was dealing with a wrist injury from that point on because he was speeding to the game. Once again, he's running late. So this is not stuff that reporters are making up. If you're speeding to the game because you're running late, and Calais Campbell was right behind him, he was there to video the entire incident with the police officer. You're putting other people at harm's way. But on top of that, you should have been early to the game or just go out there and arrive on time. Why are you running late? You're a professional. That's the first thing with being an athlete. It's a professional athlete. And Tyreek Hill has been professional. And there was a lot of reports like this that came out with the Chiefs. So now you have Tyreek Hill with your team. He seems like he's very unhappy, and I get it. He wants to go out there. He wants to put the big numbers. He wants to win the championships. But you had that opportunity with the Chiefs, and you decided to leave. You wanted to come to the Dolphins. I look at Jaylen Waddle. Jaylen Waddle is a very good wide receiver. So you have two speed demons on the outside for the time being. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is going to be a very good number 3 wide receiver with this team. He had 500 receiving yards last year, 9 receiving touchdowns with the Tennessee Titans. Terrible quarterback play with Mason Rudolph and also with Will Levis. Imagine what he can do in this system with Tua. Look at what Jonnu Smith just did last season. Jonnu Smith had 884 receiving yards, 8 receiving touchdowns. He averaged 10 yards a catch. It's just their offensive line. And this is how bad their offensive line has become over the last few years. In 2023, the running backs for this roster, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, they averaged 5.1 yards a carry. That was first in the NFL. Just last season, they averaged 4 yards a carry. That was 28th in the NFL. And they have speed running backs. Now you can say Raheem Mostert is a washed up running back. He's no longer the same. But they had the opportunity to go out there and make a deep playoff run with Raheem Mostert at the time. Raheem Mostert led the league in rushing touchdowns, and yet they still came up short against the Chiefs. They're just not physical enough against teams like the Steelers, against the Chiefs, and the same with the Baltimore Ravens because of the dominant front sevens that they have. And you have a quarterback that can't escape out of harm's way. And the same with the Houston Texans. They bullied them also. And with the Green Bay Packers, them being on the road, cold game, Thanksgiving night. Those are just many games that they have suffered in over the last few years with Coach McDaniel. Early on in the season, while it's still warm right before it gets cold, they'll go out there, they'll put up the pretty numbers, they'll beat you in the track meet. But when it gets physical, when we get into November, December, and damn sure for January, they're not the same team. They're ready to go back home to Miami. That's how they base this football team off of speed and finesse, little to no physicality. And I blame Coach McDaniel for this because it's his system, it's his scheme. And I look at Chris Greer. And this is where we talk about defense here. This man should have been fired a long time ago. They pushed all their chips in when they were making trades to bring in names like Jaylen Ramsey. When they went out there, they brought in Kendall Fuller. When they brought in Odell Beckham Jr., they were trying to go out there and maximize that Super Bowl window. But you knew that you were one injury away with Tua from that blowing up in your face, and that's what happened. He never invested money in the quarterback position. You now have Zach Wilson. He was a bust with the New York Jets. If he's able to play, and let's knock on wood that he's not able to play, because that means that Tua went down with yet another injury. And if he goes down with another concussion injury, I do believe that doctors may come in and say, hey, it's time to shut it down. It's time to call it a career. But you do have Zach Wilson. There's some talent there, but he's a turnover machine. And you drafted Quinn Ewers. Bad drafting by him year in and year out. And due to the fact that you gave Tua that $212 million deal for 4 years, you cannot go out there and you cannot bring in more offensive linemen to help out the roster. You cannot go out there and re-sign Christian Wilkins. He walked away. He went to the Las Vegas Raiders. So what do you do in the first round? Instead of drafting an offensive tackle, you went with Kenneth Grant. And everyone knew that the Miami Dolphins desperately needed offensive line help. So they go with Kenneth Grant, big defensive tackle out of Michigan. And trust me, it'll tie into the Jalen Ramsey conversation. Kenneth Grant is a very good football player. And you're looking to go out there and replace Christian Wilkins long term. I fully understand that. But at the same time, you have solid pass rushers with your team. You look at Zach last season. He had a career year. He had 10 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception. You drafted Chop Robinson. You have Jalen Phillips and you have Bradley Chubb. Now, Chop Robinson, you hope that he can be a franchise pass rusher for years to come. He had six sacks last season, and you see the potential is there. On the back half of the season, he had one of the highest pressure rates for a rookie in the NFL. It was up there with Braden Fisk and the same with Kobe Turner. That's what you want to see. You want to see him be in that situation right there. Not Kobe Turner, Jared Verse, pardon me, with the Los Angeles Rams. That's a situation that you want to see Chop Robinson be in. A smooth developmental pass rusher. But this is a problem here. You have Bradley Chubb. You gave up a first round pick for Bradley Chubb. And Bradley Chubb is not a bad football player. Bradley Chubb was not worth a first round pick from the Denver Broncos. I'm sorry. You could have traded a second or a third round pick for him. Or traded a third and a fifth round pick for him. But a first round pick for Bradley Chubb is insane. And you gave that up to bring him in. And he's been a very good pass rusher. He missed all of last season with an ACL injury that he suffered in 2023. They were going against the Baltimore Ravens, and I do place this on the head coach. Why is he still in the game? The Miami Dolphins are down by 3 touchdowns. It's garbage time, and yet he's still in the game. He tears his ACL. And he's taking a pay cut. I understand it. But at the same time, you trade the first round pick for this man. Will he be the same player coming off that ACL injury, and he missed an entire year? I look at Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips is a very good player. That same year that Bradley Chubb went down with his knee injury, Jalen Phillips went down with a torn Achilles injury against the New York Jets Black Friday game. He was able to come back last season. He tore his ACL. This is back-to-back injuries now. And this is a player that retired at the college level for some time due to injuries. And his game is based off of strength, finesse, and explosiveness. Can he be that same explosive player coming off the edge? If he can't be, you're going to be in trouble. But if all those guys can come back and they can return to full health, you may have something special with your front seven. You still have Jordan Brooks as you signed in free agency a year ago. I like Jordan Brooks. He just has to stay healthy. That's it. He's a very good tackle machine. And you have Terrell Dotson. So the front seven, there's a lot of potential there, especially against stopping the run and getting to the quarterback. You have Vic Fangio as a defensive coordinator. They let him go. They went with Anthony Weaver. Anthony Weaver was a solid defensive mind last season with the Dolphins. Their defense kept them in games. They just need a consistent quarterback play. And once again, I blame the general manager. Injuries happen and injuries suck. But you look at some of the best teams in the NFL, they're prepared for this. I can't even blame Coach McDaniel for this. That man had to go out there and call in Tyler Huntley on short notice to find someone to give the football to Tyreek Hill and to Jaylen Waddle. You put that man into a terrible situation, and you knew damn well that your quarterback suffered with concussion injuries and the same with hip injuries in the past. But Chris Grier just didn't care. And I look at Jalen Ramsey. This is the icing on top. Jalen Ramsey is still a very good football player. He's still a very good cornerback. He may not be that same Jalen Ramsey that he was with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but he's still a very good player. 2 interceptions last season, 11 pass deflections. They just don't throw his way that much. He's 30 years old. Chris Grier goes out there and he completes the complete cardinal sin. He comes out. He tells the media, yeah, it's true. We're going to try to shop around Jalen Ramsey. He didn't request a trade, but it's best off that we just both move on. You may ask yourself, why would they want to move on from Jalen Ramsey? And Jalen Ramsey wants to stay with the Dolphins with all the reports that I'm reading. They need to move on from him because the contract that he signed a few years ago with Miami, and who gave them that contract? Chris Grier. And now you have to move on from him. And the reason why I say this is a cardinal sin in any sports league, you never show other owners or general managers your hand. They know that you need to move on from Jalen Ramsey. And it's reported that they're going to try to possibly make the team take on that contract. A team may say, hell no. We'll give you a 5th round pick for him. You'll pay off 70 to 75% of that contract, and we'll take on the rest. And we see it all the time. We've seen this with other players in the past. This is why you don't come out in the media and you tell them, hey, he's up for a trade. You can play it coy. You can lie. You can tell everyone else in the room with you, from Coach McDaniel to your defensive backs coach, your defensive coordinator. Look, we're going to move on from Jalen Ramsey, but let's just keep this hush hush. This team has a huge culture problem and a huge leadership problem. And it starts up top with the general manager, and it starts with ownership. It's the reason why they haven't had much postseason success in over 2 decades now. It was time to move on from this administration a very long time ago. But I look at them in the AFC. They're not a terrible football team. That's the bad part. But they're not good enough to go out there and to contend and win a championship. They're not better than the Ravens. They're not better than the Chiefs. They're not better than the Buffalo Bills. And those are the top tier teams in the AFC. I don't even think they're better than the Cincinnati Bengals. At least the Bengals have a pass rusher that can get to the quarterback on a consistent basis. And once again, we've seen Tua go against these top tier pass rushers before. He's not the same quarterback. At least those teams can go out there and beat teams above 500. The fact that you have a 2-13 record is laughable. And before the season starts, they will move on from Jalen Ramsey. But you knew all of these problems with Jalen Ramsey in that contract when you traded for him to get him from the Los Angeles Rams. Last season was their last Super Bowl push. The contracts are starting to hurt them right now. They have a lot of older players on this roster. And you're paying them a lot of money. You've neglected the offensive line for many years. You haven't helped out your quarterback. And you overpaid Tua for over $200 million. You can restructure that contract. You're just kicking the can down the road. Look at what the Saints have been through over the last 10 to 15 years. This is a situation that the Dolphins may be placed into if they keep Chris Grier around. They have to move on from him. And maybe for this upcoming season, they shock me. They go out there, they make the NFL playoffs, and they win a playoff game. But I'm talking about the Miami Dolphins so far in their tenure with Tua, and the same with Mike McDaniel. And ideally, they did the right thing. When you go out there and you have a rookie quarterback on that rookie deal, you load your team up. You fire Brian Flores. You brought in a hot offensive name and Coach Mike. You put pieces around Tua and Jaylen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. It didn't work out. I just can't come on here and just say, you know what? You failed the team. You suck. It's time to move on. They've tried. It just didn't work out. But now we're past that point. You've paid your quarterback. It's time to move off some of these players. If you can't make the NFL playoffs for this upcoming season, let Tyreek Hill go. Try to get some draft capital, build into this offensive line. And they need to change their ideology. You do have Devon Achane still on this roster. He's a speed back in the NFL. And you drafted Ollie Gordon late in the NFL draft. Ollie Gordon did have a special season at Oklahoma State University 2 years ago. This previous season, not so much. But he's a very good physical runner. And I think that he can come in, he can give you a lot of good production. And I think easily he's going to be the second best running back on this roster to Devon Achane. But they need to change their entire philosophy and be more physical up front if they want to have a chance in the AFC. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about the Miami Dolphins and how do you feel about Tua moving forward? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless.